I had a debate with a well-known scholar from the Arab world. And we had actually a pretty heated debate. And I don't like to have heated debates, but it got pretty heated about suicide bombs. This was about 10 years ago. I told him I've always been against it. I've never, and not because I'm from California or I grew up in a liberal family or something like that. It doesn't make any sense to me. And I literally told him, if this is Islam, then I'm in the wrong religion. If this is Islam, because it goes against everything that I was taught about human decency. And I just can't believe that this is Islam. He said to me last month, I was with Sheikh Abdullah, we visited him, and he said, I had a debate with Sheikh Hamza about 10 years ago. It took me 10 years to realize that I think he's right. And I had the similar debate with Sheikh Abdullah, and his knowledge is so much vaster than mine, but we discussed it in depth for a long time about this. All the Mauritanian scholars that I know were opposed to it. And the early ulama, when it first showed up, you look at the original fatwas, all the ulama were against it. I don't know what happened. We got smarter ulama. And part of it, if we're honest about it, it's this thing when you're defeated by an enemy, it's like they love life, but we're not afraid of death. And it's kind of how we one-up them. You can't do this. You can take our land, you can control us, but man, you guys, you love life. You won't do this, look at us. And Naha Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam an al-muthla. The Prophet prohibited mutilating a non-Muslim's body. What is blowing up yourself other than mutilating your own body? It's not permitted to mutilate bodies in war. You're not supposed to mutilate bodies. And that to me is a pure mutilation. And then they use ad-darurat tabih al-mahdhurat, necessities permit the impermissible. Tayyib, go with Machiavelli's religion. Necessity, all things are permitted. Under that rule of necessity, the end justifies the means. It's not Islam, as far as I can tell. So then he says, لَيْسَ هَذَا الزَّمَانِ نَهْيًا. If you change it with your tongue or with your heart, and that's the weakness of Iman, don't expose yourself. Because he has a sword that's unsheathed. And in another riwayah, in another transmission, يَجِبُ الْأَمْرُ إِذَا لَمْ تَخَافْ سَيْفًا وَلَا عَصَى. It's obligation for you to do it as a scholar if you're not afraid of the sword, death, or asa, torture. Bastinado, what they used to call the bastinado, The Muslims, for some reason, they like that. They used to use it beating the soles of feet. It's very painful. They did it in those horrible CIA torture chambers. They would beat the heel because it's very sensitive. You have all the. I once my sandals got stolen. I was in Tunisia, and somebody had one of those these sandals that have all these little points on them. They're like acupressure sandals. And he said, I've only got these. I can loan you these. I said, okay. So, I didn't know you're only supposed to use them for like 5 minutes. And I walked in them. For like days, my feet hurt after that because I walked in them all day. But my kidneys and liver were cleansed by the end of it. So, فإذا كان هذا هو موقف ابن عباس وأحمد والكثير من العلماء في عدم جواز تعريض النفس للقتل والأذى الجسدي. So here we can see this is the position of Ibn Abbas, Tarjuman of Quran, the translator of the Quran. This is the opinion of Ahmad, Imam Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. He's the Imam. He's called Imam Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. That's his laqab. He's the Imam of the people of Sunnah and Jama'ah. This is mostly from his madhab. Abu Ya'la ibn al-Farra, al-Khallal, these are all Hanbalis. And he's called the Imam of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Nobody hates Ahmad other than a mubtada'. Like Malik is Imam Ahl al-Madinah. That's his sharaf. that he's the Imam of the people of Medina. Imam Shafi'i is, his sharaf is he's the Imam of Quraysh. Right? Quraysh has siyada in our tradition. And Abu Hanifa is Imam al-Azam. He's the greatest of the Imam. They all have their place. Because he got the most of followers. He's going to have the biggest group behind him on Yawm al-Qiyamah. Abu Hanifa radiallahu anhu. They're all kulluhum ala al-haq. But that's his laqab, Ahmad. And this is his position. فَقُلْنَا إِنَّ خُرُوجَ النَّاسِ إِلَى السَّاحَاتِ مِنْ بَابِ إِنْكَارِ الْمُنْكَرِ. So the Shaykh, who is an usuli genius, Shaykh Abdullah bin Bayyah, he said, if you want the category of the action, because every action in Islam is categorized. If you want the hukm of what protest is, when you go out in mudaharat, the hukm is amr bil ma'ruf and nahi anil munkar. It is, you're enjoining right and forbidding evil. If it's peaceful, that's the ruling. Therefore, it has those 5 conditions. In America, you can do it. They're not gonna shoot you or gun you down, thank God, not yet anyway. And some places, unfortunately, they do. But if you're in Australia, you can do it. But there's a way to do it legally. You have to get the permits and do it the way they ask you to do it. Because you're permitted to petition the government for a redress of wrongs in Western constitutional law. Right? You can do it in England. But in some Muslim countries, they know if you do it, the ruler's going to blow you away. What's the hukm then? This needs real ulama. That's why Sheikh Sa'id, the usuli scholar of Damascus, he gave his opinions. People say, oh, he's alim tughat, scholar of the... He said on television, I'm almost dead. Yeah, I have 1 foot in the grave. He was in his mid-80s. He said, I've got 1 foot in the grave. What do I benefit from this? By giving you this advice. Tell me, what's the benefit? He lived in a small apartment. He didn't have a television. He was a zahid. I mean, I knew him personally. I spent time with him. Maybe he did some things wrong. Maybe he said some things that were better left unsaid. We don't know the conditions he was under. We don't know what he was being threatened by the regime. I have a good opinion of scholars, but I know that he was not a sellout. I know that. And nobody can convince me otherwise. So, فهل يجوز للمفتي أن يفتيهم بالخروج في المظاهرات مع العلم لاحتمال ذهاب نفوسهم أو إصابتهم في التظاهر دون أن يكون متحملا إثما ولا مرتكب إثما ذنبا? So let me ask you, Sheikh Abdullah is saying, let me ask you, is it permissible for the mufti to give a fatwa to tell people go out and protest when he knows the probability of them losing their lives and being shot or hit in that protest without this mufti carrying the sin of that? وشروط وجوب إنكار المنكر 5 عند القاضي أبو يعلى ابن الفراء كالشروط السابقة. And Abu Ya'la, the Hanbali, great Hanbali scholar, he also had 5, except one of his conditions إلا أنه ذكر شرط استمرار الوقوع في المنكر فإن لم يكن مستمر عليه لم يجب الإنكار. His condition was, if the munkar would self-resolve, like you have a sickness, you have self-resolving sicknesses, the doctor would say don't treat it. Just go home, drink lots of fluid, and wait till it's over. He doesn't want to give you antibiotics. Why waste the antibiotics on something that's going to self-resolve and it's not going to benefit you? So that's the same thing. If you have a fitna that's self-resolving, and just leave it until it ends. So that's one of his conditions. أنه إذا أمكن إزالته بطريق أسهل تعين. But if he can end it with an easier way, then it becomes an obligation. لأن إزالته بطريق أخرى إما أن تضر بالمنكر بصيغة اسم الفاعل فيكون في حكم الظالم لنفسه وإن كان ضرره على من ينكر عليه كان في حكم الظالم له. So if he's going to harm himself, he's ظالم لنفسه. He's from the ummah, but he's from that first group, مغفور له, it's sinfulness. He's ظالم لنفسه, he's oppressing his own soul. And if it's going to harm the one he's condemning, he's ظالم له كذلك. So, والحقيقة, especially if it's going to cause this ummah a great wound And what greater wound than destroying the infrastructure of a people's land? I mean, what greater wound than destroying their water, destroying their sewage systems, destroying their homes, let alone destroying their lives. والحقيقة, the reality, أن الفقيه, now this is Sheikh Abdullah, الآن يلحق بالثورات بعد اشتعال الساحة ليلعن في الغالب الظالمة ولكن دون أن يعالج المظلومة. We see the faqih now that when these revolutions begin, he gets out there with them and he's cursing the ruler with them. But has he actually changed the condition of the oppressed? Has he done anything to make their condition better? وَلَا أَنْ يُدَاوِيَ الْمَكْلُومِ, has he treated the wounded? بَلْ رُبَّمَا زَادَهُ كَلَمًا عَلَى كَلَمٍ, maybe he's even increased his wound and made the oppression worse. يحثه على السير في طريق لا نهاية لها من الدم, he's encouraging him on a road that has no end of bloodshed. فقد كان العلماء يمنعون العامة من حمل السلاح ويكتفون بالوعظ. The early ulama used to tell the general people, don't carry swords against them, and they would exhort. ويأمرون العامة بالإنكار بالقلب, they would tell the common people to condemn these things with their hearts. According to the hadith, وإليك هذه الحكاية يقول قاضي أبو يعلاء بن الفراء فصل في وجوب الإنكار على السلطان إذا غصب وعطل الحدود وضرب الأبشار واستأثر بأموال الفيء والغنائم والأعشار فإنه يجب وعظه وتخويفه بالله تعالى فأما بالقتال له وشهر السلاح عليه فلا يجوز ذلك. وقد نص أحمد على هذا في رواية حنبل قال اجتمع فقهاء بغداد في ولاية الواثق إلى أبي عبد الله وقالوا إن هذا الأمير قد تفاقم وفشى, يعنون إظهار القول بخلق القرآن وغير ذلك, فلا نرضى بامرأته ولا سلطانه. فناظرهم في ذلك وقال عليكم بالنكرة بقلوبكم ولا تخلعوا يدا من طاعة ولا تشقوا عصا المسلمين ولا تسفكوا دماءهم دماءكم ودماء المسلمين معكم وانظروا في عاقبة أمركم واصبروا حتى يستريح بر أو يستراح منه فاجر. It's an amazing story. So he says that Ahmad ibn Hanbal, Abu Ya'la ibn al-Farra tells a story in his wujub al-inkar ala sultan, the obligation of condemning a ruler for his injustice. If he steals the wealth of the people, if he's not implementing the laws of the land, the hudud of the Sharia, penal codes and things like that. وَضَرَبَ الْأَبْشَارِ, he's harming people, striking the humans. وَاسْتَأْثَرَ بِأَمْوَالِ الْفَيْءِ وَالْغَنَائِمِ وَالْعَشَارِ, and then he's absconding with the wealth of the populace. He's illegitimately embezzling the public funds. فَإِنَّهُ يَجِبُ وَعْظُهُ وَتَخْوِيفُهُ بِاللَّهِ. In that case, it's an obligation to warn him, just like Mustafa Sabri said, warn these people. The revolution's coming. Even though our religion protects you from revolution, if you keep this up, it's going to come whether you like it or not. Even if the people try not to do it, it'll come. Warn them. فَأَمَّا بِالْقِتَالِ لَهُ وَشَهْرُ السِّلَاحِ عَلَيْهِ فَلَا يَجُوزُ. As for fighting them, for pulling out weapons and opposing them, that's not permitted. وَقَدْ نَصَّ أَحْمَدُ عَلَى هَذَا فِي رِوَايَةِ حَنْبَلٍ. And Imam Ahmad relates this riwayah from the riwayah of Hanbal. He said, اجتمع فقهاء Baghdad. The jurists of Baghdad got together. Now imagine this. This is Baghdad at the time of Ahmad ibn Hanbal. These are some of the greatest ulama in the whole Muslim ummah. اجتمع فقهاء Baghdad. At the time of Al-Wathiq Billah, who said Khalq al-Quran, this was the Mu'tazilite, were ruling the ummah. They got together with Abi Abdullah. His name was Abu Abdullah. His son was Abdullah ibn Ahmad, who did the Zawaid al-Musnad. His son was a great scholar as well. So he was called Abu Abdullah. They got together with Ahmad ibn Hanbal, who was they recognized him as the greatest scholar then. And he said, Inna hadha al-amira qad tafaqama. He's doing really, really dangerous, momentous things. وَفَشَى, it's spreading amongst the people. And he meant by that saying the Quran was created and other things. فَلَا نَرْضَى بِمْرَاتِي. We don't accept his imra, his ruler, his imara, the fact that he's amir. We don't accept it. وَلَا سُلْطَانِهِ, and we don't give him any authority. فَنَاظَرَهُمْ, he debated with them. Nadara is theoretical debate, like looking at proofs and dalils. He reasoned with them. What did he say? عَلَيْكُمْ بِالنُّكْرَةِ فِي قُلُوبِكُمْ. Rejected in your hearts what he's doing. وَلَا تَخْلَعُ يَدًا مِّن طَاعَةٍ. Don't remove the hand of ta'ah, the obedience to the ruler. This is what Shaykh Abdullah bin Bayy calls طاعة الاحتمال. Shaykh Abdullah يفسر بين الطاعة. يقول الطاعة في الحديث إذا ننظر للنصوص هناك طاعتان في الحديث. طاعة الاحتمال وطاعة الامتثال. One of them is the ta'ah of obeying the rulers and what they tell us. So if the ruler says, go build a road there, we build the road. Because Sharia says that, you should help the society. You need a road, the Sultan says, build a road. The Sultan says, we're introducing lights into the society. The traffic lights. There's nothing in Sharia about traffic lights. Nothing in the Quran that says, لا تقفوا بالإشارة الخضراء. Don't stop with the لا تقفوا بالإشارة الخضراء وقفوا بالإشارة الحمراء. Nothing in the Quran says stop at a red light, go at a green light. But it's maslahah. It's a human benefit. So if the Amir says you have to stop at a red light and you have to go at the green light, it becomes wajib. If you're going to drive, you have to obey the law. If you run the red light, it's a sin. That's ta'atul imtithal. When it's consistent with the Sharia. Why? Because those red lights and green lights are there to preserve the safety of the people driving. And that's a maslahah. And the Sharia calls to maslahah. لا تلقي بأيديكم إلى التهلكة. Don't destroy yourselves by running red lights. Right? It doesn't literally say that, but we could qiyasan, by understanding it.